Hello. So today I want to do the Midyear Freak Out Tag. I've seen so many different booktubers do this tag, and I don't ever do tags. I think maybe I did one in the past, but I actually deleted it because I looking back at it, I didn't like it. I can see how stressed I looked and how stressed I felt while making it, so I just completely took it off. But I've seen quite a few booktubers, as I mentioned, do this tag, and I think it sounds really fun and a little bit more relaxed and not super stressful. So I just wanted to do it for the first time today. I don't know which questions are the correct ones for this tag. The different booktubers that I've seen, they've had 95% of the same questions, but there are a few where they're a little bit different from each other. Some won't have certain questions while the others have these questions. So I'm not really sure which are the right ones. I've kind of just screenshotted, I think three or four of the booktubers questions that they answered, and I just put those on my notes app. So I'm just going to be answering whatever questions I found and whatever ones I think are part of this tag. Also, it's later in the day. It's almost 7:30, I think almost 8. So the sun is going down. The lighting is going to change. I'm going to look different, but that's okay. I just wanted to do this tag today because I don't think I will have time during the week. So I just thought I might as well just do it today. So what I think is the first question for this tag is, how is your reading year going for 2026? I think my reading year is going pretty well, actually. It's actually going better than what I thought it was going to, because when I was going into 2026, I thought I was not going to have time at all to read, or at least maybe half the time to read as I usually would. But it ended up being that nothing really changed in terms of my reading. Well, some things did change. I definitely read slower. I don't pick up a book as soon as I finish one book. So there's some changes like that, but they're not so huge that my reading year is just completely different than from previous years. I actually already read 35 books out of my 65 book goal for this year, and I'm in the middle of another book, and I'm already over half, a little over halfway, maybe 56% of the way. So I'll soon be at 36. So I think, considering it's halfway through 2026 and I'm already basically halfway for my 65 book goal this year, I think this year is going not only really well, but way better than what I originally thought it was going to be. Question number two for the tag is, what is the best book you've read so far in 2026? And I'm going to try really hard to not repeat books for every answer. So for this question, upon reflection, I think the best book that I've read in 2026 so far is Ondar and Santi Were Here by Johnny Garzavia. And I am picking this book because, upon reflection, everything wrapped up so beautifully. Everything that got brought up in the beginning with the plot, the characters, the setting, it all wrapped up so beautifully by the end. I got really emotional. I was heartbroken. There were a lot of heartwarming moments. Everything about this book, I think, was done just so incredibly well. And it just elicited such a visceral reaction from me in various different ways and in various different emotions. That is why I think this is my favorite book so far of 2026. So, question number three is, what is the best sequel that you've read in 2026? I've only read one sequel so far this year. All of the other books have been book number three, book number four, and I'm pretty sure I started a lot of series, as I've talked about in my series progress video. So the only sequel, book number two, that I've read in 2026 is Leather and Lark by Bryn Weaver. I read this, I believe, back in February. This was a really fun read. I was really happy to continue this series because I read Butcher and Blackbird, I'm pretty sure, somewhere in 2025. So here I am, pretty much a whole year later, continuing the series, and I loved this series so, so much. The banter in this book was just so much fun, and I really loved seeing how book number two fits in with book number one, and how it kind of sets the scene for book number three. Also, this is not part of the tag, I just wanted to show it off, but I got Bryn Weaver's autograph for the Ruinous Love trilogy when I met her back in Boston in August 2025. So I think this was one of the best sequels that I've read so far this year, and also the series honestly just has a really nice place in my heart. I have good memories buying these books, and I'm rambling about this series, so I'm just going to stop. Anyway, this was the best sequel that I read in 2026 so far. Also, it is still just so blazing hot in here, so I think I'm rambling because I'm just delirious. But the next question for this tag is, what book did you have the most fun reading? And that book is one that I actually recently finished, I'm pretty sure last week, more or less. And that is Oh My Goth by Gemma Showalter. I posted this on my Instagram. It wasn't like a review, it was just kind of like my initial thoughts when I first started reading this book. This was giving like, hey, I'm Raven, your acid bath princess of the darkness kind of vibe. I don't know if anyone knows that reference. My husband didn't. He looked at me pretty oddly. But this book, it was really fun and it was equally as cringy. I mean, they're all teenagers in here. These are high schoolers. They're all 18. And the main character, Jade, I said this in my Bookstagram post, she just needed to go back to therapy. I mean, landing in this alternate world kind of smacked some sense into her, but I think she would have benefited for like another couple of years in therapy. Also, some of the things in here I just found so cringy. And I don't remember what page it was on. Jade has a romantic interest named Cleric. And I'm pretty sure it was like a little bit more towards the end when they're kind of like wearing their heart on their sleeves. They're telling each other how they feel about each other. Cleric says he really likes making Jade laugh because she's goth and she doesn't feel things. She's unhappy. She's like just in this dark place all the time. She doesn't smile. She doesn't laugh. She doesn't do anything. But she laughs with Cleric, and he says he loves making her laugh because it makes him feel like king of the world or something. And when I read that, I was like, okay." And then Jade continues, like, she bounces off what he says. And I forgot what she said about him, but when she does something with him or when she feels something with him, I can't remember. She said she feels like a queen who is making her king happy or something. And when I read that, I had to close it and just like gather myself. I was like, okay, that was pretty cringy. That really got to me. But I think overall this book is really fun. And something I didn't know about this book is there is some lore to this. I really only say that because I saw it on Goodreads and I'm not sure if I'm getting the whole story or not. I really didn't look that much into it. When I was marking when I finished this book, that's when I saw all of the comments. I guess originally it wasn't like this length, it was a little bit shorter, and I guess the author commented on someone's like comment or something about this book, and the author said like, I read everyone's critiques, I am looking at my book, I am seeing where everyone is correct in their comments about this book, I made it longer. That's just lore. I didn't know about this book. I didn't know it was originally shorter than this, and I didn't know that the author was like reading everyone's comments and taking in everyone's like constructive criticisms about this book and ended up making the book longer. Because when I originally marked this book on one of my reading apps, I got a completely different cover. And I was really confused because I obviously have this one. And the other cover, I don't remember what it looked like, but it definitely wasn't this. So then when I found the correct cover and I went into like the different reviews for this book, that's when I saw that comment about how this book was shorter. I saw the comment that the author made. So I think that's why this is my pick for this question. It's really fun, not just in like the story, but also some of the lore that I learned about this book. The message at the end, overall, I think it's pretty nice. I think just being able to be who you are, not caring what about other people think, letting yourself feel happiness, loving people in your life without a care in the world, without holding back. I think that's what I got from this book. And I think that's a really beautiful message hidden in a really cheesy, cringy book. This was really fun to read. I really liked reading this book. The next question for the tag is, what is a new release that you haven't read yet but want to? And my answer for this one, I think, is going to be Japanese Gothic by Kylie Lee Baker, is I think the author's name. Okay, yes, it's Kylie Lee Baker. And I'm choosing this book because I have seen everybody and their mother talking about this book. I've seen so many of like my Bookstagram mutuals talk about this book. I've seen this book on BookTube. I'm pretty sure I've seen this in a bookstore, maybe. So I've seen this book pretty much everywhere. I know what it's about, and it does sound really interesting. I do want to read it. I just don't know when I'm going to read it. Every time I see this book on my page, I get like that FOMO of like, oh my God, okay, I really want to read it. This person is reading it. Now this next person is reading it. Oh my gosh, here it is in the bookstore. So this is my answer for this question. I really want to see what the hype is around Japanese Gothic. So question number 6 is, what is your most anticipated book for the second half of the year? And my answer for this one is The House of Gardenias by Isabel Cañas. I am such a fan of her books, and I have a lot of her books. I have Vampires of El Norte right here. I have The Possession of Alba Diaz right here. I've read The Hacienda. So I am so excited for The House of Gardenias. And I'm pretty sure, like 99% sure, this next book of hers is a young adult novel. All of the other books that I mentioned are adult age characters. So I'm really excited to see how she handles writing a young adult book. I think she'll do really well because, again, I love her work. I love her writing so much. So I am just really so excited to read her next book. And I do have this book. I got it in my email. NetGalley sent out an email saying like, "Oh, you can get the House of Gardenias." Like, because usually you have to like, well, not usually, but it's common to just like request off NetGalley and you either get approved or not. But for the House of Gardenias, it was like, here, just download it. So I did it like then and there. I'm so excited to see her take on horror within a young adult novel. So, with question number 7, I am definitely going to reword it a little bit, but originally the question is, what is the worst book that you've read in 2026? And what I'm going to change it to is, what is a book that you DNF'd in 2026? And my answer for that is The Umbra King by Jamie Applegate Hunter. I've mentioned this book a few times already. I think I mentioned this maybe back in April for like a March wrap up, April TBR video that I made. And I started this book and I DNF'd it. I couldn't get into it. I still have this book, but I am planning on unhauling it at the end of the year. I'm just going to wait until like the end of 2026 to unhaul anything that I don't want on my bookshelves anymore. So that is really the only reason that I still have this book. I DNF'd it. I don't think I'll read it again. And I am definitely going to unhaul it by the end of the year. I can definitely tell the lighting is looking a little rough, but I am just going to keep moving forward. Question number 8 is, what is the biggest surprise so far this year? And my biggest surprise is I have finally read one, a nonfiction book, but two, I have read two nonfiction books. I made a video about this. I basically made like a nonfiction TBR stack, and I haven't started my third nonfiction book yet. I do plan to. I just, honestly, I don't have an excuse. I just haven't started reading one soon after my second one, which was, I don't know where it went, which was Scream With Me by Eleanor Johnson. So that's a big surprise. I not only read a nonfiction book, but I read two. I'm definitely going to work on my third nonfiction book. I just haven't started it yet, but I do want to at least read two more nonfiction books by the end of the year. And I think in the books that I showed for my TBR sec are really different from each other and really unique and also really short. So I really believe in myself that I can read at least two more this year. I changed the lighting on my ring light. I don't know if that made things better or worse, or if there is no difference, but I was definitely looking pretty rough. So hopefully it's not too bad. But question number 9 says, who is your favorite new author, whether new to you or a debut author? And my answer for this book, I read An Appetite for Miracles by Lincoln Zayat-Kemp. This was my first time reading this book as well as this author, and this book is one of my 5-star reads this year, and it also just blew me away. I cried a little bit while reading this book. It was so sad. There was a lot to this book, and it looks really chunky, but it was so easy to read, and it was so easy to read a lot of the book in one sitting. And it's one of my novels that I've read that's written in verse, so I think that's why it also was just so fast to read. I was just so captivated. It was just a really good book, and I really love the author's writing style. So this is definitely an author that I am going to continue reading. So speaking of crying, Question number 10 is what book has made you cry so far in 2026? Purgatory Funeral Cakes by Sanho. I will try not to go on too long. I sobbed while reading this book. There were a lot of different moments of grief and mourning in here that just really got to me. So I often had to just close the book, cry a little bit, compose myself, and then continue reading. A lot of the drawings in here are just so pretty to look at. This was a really good book to cry to. And I think maybe I just needed that cry sometimes because of how stressful this year has been. But this book was a really good book and one that definitely made me cry a lot. Also, I completely failed in putting it back correctly. Now, this next question I don't really like because it's way too general and way too vague, and there's like so many different answers for it. But question number 11 is what are some books you need to read by the end of the year? All of them, like every book that I plan to read this month and next month and continuing on until the end of 2026. Those are all books I just really need to read by the end of the year. So with these like last two questions, I'm not really sure if they're part of the tag. I saw them for one booktuber's video, but I didn't see them in the other ones. So I don't know like if these are even part of the tag or not. But I thought they were like fun because they're not like incredibly related to books, but they're still book-ish. So I just wanted to include them. But question number 12 of what I think is part of the tag, what is your favorite video that you've made so far this year? So there's videos that I am really glad that I've made because sometimes I get ideas that really just start to like itch at my brain and I can't satisfy that itch until I make the video. And once I do, I feel really happy that I made it because it was like gnawing at me until I made it. So I would say maybe those are my favorite kind of videos that I made. When I made my grief video, I forgot exactly what I titled it, but when I made my grief video and when I made my social media influencers and Hollywood video, those two videos were ideas that I had that I really wanted to make because they were really specific aside from like the usual wrap up video, TBR video. I think those are ones that I feel like are maybe my favorites because I tried to do something sort of out of my comfort zone. So I think maybe that's why those would be my favorite videos. It was something out of my comfort zone. And even though they're like really specific topics, they were topics that I really cared about and I really wanted to talk about. So I would say those kinds of really specific videos are my quote unquote favorites. Also, I kind of struggle to come up with video ideas, which is why I usually just make like my wrap up videos and my TBR ones. So when I come up with a really specific idea, like the grief one and the social media one, those are ones that I especially feel really proud of. So the last and final question of what I think is part of the tag is are there any upcoming videos that you are excited to make? And my answer is no, not really, only because I don't always make videos all the time. I don't always have the time or the energy or the motivation or the idea to make a video. So whenever I do, that is more or less the video that I am really excited about because that means that I had the energy, motivation, the time, and that is a video that I essentially feel proud of because I was able to make it. So those are all of the questions for the mid-year freakout tag, or at least I think that they are. But even if some are not really part of the tag, I really loved answering all these questions. I think they're really fun. And I also feel really proud of myself for making this because again, I mentioned I don't make tag videos. I the last time I made one, it didn't go so well, but this time around I feel a little bit more confident. I feel definitely a lot more relaxed about it. And these are really fun questions. And I really loved watching all of the videos from the booktubers that I watch when they were talking about all these questions. And I think I will try to maybe make a little bit more videos like this where it's like a tag or just like answering general questions or something. So that'll be something I will try to challenge myself on later. So that is all that I had for today. I would love to know maybe one of your answers for any of the questions on this tag, particularly if there is a new release that you haven't read yet but you want to read, or if there was a book that you had a lot of fun reading, or if maybe you had a worst book of 2026. I would love to know any of those questions. Thank you so much for listening to me, and I hope that I see you next time.